Robert Henline comes from a family with a long Navy tradition, but he enlisted in the Army. In March 2007, the 36-year-old staff sergeant began his third deployment in Iraq, where he was a transportation specialist coordinating convoys of supplies and troops for the 82nd Airborne. Just a month later, Henline's truck hit a roadside bomb.
The vehicle was flipped upside down about 15 meters from the hole itself, which was about 5 feet wide, 2 feet deep.
Henline was burned over nearly 38% of his body. He was transported to the military's combat burn unit housed inside Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio. Dr. Evan Renz, a surgeon and director of the burn center, supervises Henline's care.
In his case, the wounds were extensive. It was a combination of challenges, the depth of injury, the extent of surface area involved, and then finding donor tissue to cover.
Henline has what are called full-thickness burns, meaning a majority of the skin was destroyed. Most of the burns are concentrated on his face, head, and left arm. Doctors have had trouble getting skin grafts to take.
As far as my head goes, it was burnt down to the skull. We've had 5 unsuccessful surgeries. I tried to put skin on it. Last surgery a month ago, they took a full thickness from my stomach. Basically, I got a tummy tuck, which is kind of nice. But they took that full thickness and put it on my head. About 80% took.
Henline's left arm was so badly burned that most of the muscle mass was destroyed. He spends a few hours every day working with an occupational therapist at the burn unit, trying to rebuild muscle.
What do you got?
Over here.
Okay, and then go this way.
The cast on Henline's left wrist must be removed twice a week, so therapists can work on his range of motion.
You're working out?
Yeah.
Henline says the recovery has been grueling. He now depends on his family in ways he never would have imagined.
My wife and I relationship, there's not a whole lot of husband and wife these days.
He can't really fix himself meals. He can't take a shower anymore by himself.
That's Connie, Henline's wife of 16 years.
So you've kind of lost that partner.
The Henlines have 3 children. In addition to caring for their needs, Connie spends part of her day cleaning and medicating her husband's wounds. She says it's difficult to be a mother, nurse, and a wife. She tries to carve out some personal time for her marriage and her own mental health.
I go to a wife support group with the other burn wives. My oldest daughter is old enough, so she'll babysit for us so that we can go buy something for the house together or go to dinner together or do something together that's not focused around his care.
It's also been hard for Henline to adjust to his physical limitations.
I can't play catch with my son, or, I can't go shopping with the girls, very easily. The kids have gotten more used to now, but still, they wish the old dad was here, which I understand. I wish he was here too.
His 10-year-old son, Skylar, says it was difficult at first to understand how badly his dad was injured.
He looked, like it didn't look really good. Mostly everyone cried. Brittany,
age 16, is the oldest child in the family, and she's up front with her friends about her dad's condition.
I'm not ashamed, but he's my dad, and things happen, and we're all military, or a lot of my friends are military, so they're understanding.
Henline is still drawing a paycheck from the Army, but Connie had to quit her job to take care of her husband. He collected some benefits from injuries related to burns on his face and his head, but Connie complains he doesn't qualify for some benefits related to his arm injuries.
They're not eligible for the same benefits as amputees are because they haven't lost a limb. But in my husband's case, he lost the use of his left arm. So whether it's there or not there, he can't use it.
Henline says some days are more difficult than others, but he's glad to be alive.
I watched my daughter go to prom last week. That was, she looked beautiful. It was a really nice moment, I could have missed.
As for Connie and the children, they say every day with him is truly a gift. Terry Gildea, Texas Public Radio News.
Well, Terry Gildea joins me in the studio for an update on this story. Terry, I understand doctors have decided to take a bit of a different direction with Staff Sergeant Henline's care.
That's right, Jim. After more than a year of working with that left arm and wrist and trying to get range of motion out of it, doctors have decided to amputate, possibly just above the left hand at the wrist area or just below the elbow on the left arm. there's just too much scar tissue with all of the surgeries that have happened on that arm and that wrist and the intensive burns that have destroyed a lot of that muscle mass. It's just not a viable option to get that limb to work now. As you heard in the story, Staff Sergeant Henline has been going through intensive therapy on that arm almost every day. So doctors have decided to amputate.
Well, that would mean that he'll be getting a prosthetic for that limb, right? So how does he feel about getting such a device?
He's excited about a prosthetic. But what that means is he'll be able to sort of move forward with his treatment. As you and I have seen in the news, the prosthetic devices that wounded warriors are getting these days are amazing pieces of technology. He'll be able to have all different kinds of attachments on that prosthetic. He'll be able to have a hand that he can use to grasp. For him, that it means he can move on with his treatment, that no longer will he be trying to work with a limb that's just not viable anymore. He's excited they'll be able to learn new things and start to be able to use that left arm again.
What about his wife, Connie? How is she taking that news?
Well, she took the news pretty hard, Jim, in the beginning. You know, for her, it's a piece of her husband that's being cut away, literally. And she said to him, you know, I won't be able to hold your hand anymore. But she's coming around a little bit. I spoke with Staff Sergeant Henline last week on the phone, and he said that Connie is finally coming to terms with the fact that this is really, a bonus instead of a minus, that he'll be able to really move on with his life and be able to do some extraordinary things.
I know in the story you mentioned that because he's a burn victim, he doesn't qualify for the same benefits as an amputee. But now that he will be an amputee, will he be able to get some of those benefits?
He will, Jim. One of the interesting benefits he'll be getting is several $1,000s to retrofit his automobile, his car, so he'll be able to learn how to drive again.
On a lighter side, I understand the Henline family did something a little special to celebrate Father's Day recently.
That's right, Jim. They went to the beach. Doesn't sound like much, but let's remember that Staff Sergeant Henline, having had 38% of his body burned, he can no longer control the temperature in his body. So being out in the sunshine, especially the intense Texas heat, is very, very difficult for him. In the story a little bit, he and I talked about the skin graft on his head. The skin on his head was almost burned down to the bone on his skull, and for more than a year, he tried to get a skin graft to take. Luckily, he was able to take some tissue from around his abdomen area and put that on, and the skin grafts have taken. If you go to our website, you can see some pictures of the transition of that from the moment he was burned all the way up to the way that the skin graft is taking. It's truly remarkable. So it sounds like, not a big deal for you and me to go down to the beach on Father's Day, but for the Henline family, it was a really special moment.
Well, tell us a bit about your series, The Impact of War.
Jim, the Impact of War initiative is sponsored by National Public Radio. They help member stations such as us cultivate stories about how war is impacting the community locally. So they've helped me with this story, and they're going to be helping me edit two other stories, one on the burn unit itself, the staff inside there, how they're dealing with the stresses of the job, and the other is about BRAC and how the Base Realignment and Closure Commission is changing the face of the military community here in San Antonio. So I'm excited to bring those stories to the listeners of Texas Public Radio in the near future.
Well, the story was produced with help from the staff at NPR as part of their Impact of War initiative, and you can see photos of the Henline family and download the story at our website, tpr.org.